Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Dean Zachary, host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham, where we go beyond politics, beyond calculation, and beyond the big two. Join us each and every Wednesday. Don't miss out.
Hi, I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Silver Sunday with the Silverline crew. This is a Sunday crew. If you join us regularly, we got another crew on Wednesdays. But we're going to talk about the same thing that they talked about on Wednesday, but you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get 7 new perspectives and points of view. So hopefully it's just a continuation of what you've learned there. So we want to thank you for joining us tonight. And the way we usually do this, we just go around my little murderer's row here on our Zoom screen and introduce everyone. I'll start. My name is Roland Mann. I'm kind of the chief wrangler here. I write Cat and Mouse, and soon to be in a couple of months, we're going to kickstart one called Trumps, and another one that, Becca, are you actually going to be working on the character tonight? Okay, and another one that just got put into the pipeline called The Rejects. And we'll get to see Becca inking on some of the character designs for those, so that will be exciting. So first up on Murderer's Row here is Curtis. Curtis, tell everyone who you are.
Hello, I'm Curtis Fujita. I'm an artist from comic books, video games, and animation. I'm the creative director at Silverline and the editor on the J-List comic book series.
Woot woot! And Curtis is actually secretly working on a project, but it's way too early to talk about that yet. But he's working on it. Yeah.
I'm working hard.
That's right. So next on Murderer's Row is Becca. Becca, tell everyone who you are.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Winslow. I am an inker and a colorist for Silverline, and I will be inking The Rejects. That's the name of it tonight. Characters. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Character designs for the new book, and looks like we got Chuck joining us too. That's very cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, Chuck. No, he's still connecting to audio, so he can't quite hear us yet. So we'll just continue on while Chuck is joining audio here. So John, why don't you tell everyone who you are?
Hey, I'm the resident Viking, by the illustrious beard. Uh, Roland's alive.
Hey, that's right. Yeah.
But I'm the inker on Friar Rush, and have a variant cover on Friar Rush, which is coming out on Kickstarter in 2 days.
Yep, that's right.
Um,
On Tuesday.
Yep, and who knows what else they'll throw me at.
That's right. We'll keep you busy. Excellent. So thank you, John. Next up on my list here is Pete Clinton. Pete.
Hey, I hate following you guys. You're all doing so many things. I'm just doing one thing.
Pete. You got to start somewhere, right?
Hey, I'm just drawing a book. That's what I do.
That's a great thing, though. It's a fantastic thing.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm penciling. We're calling it Champion of Miss Fury.
Yeah.
We're still not sure if that's what it's going to be called, but
no, we got to get serious about a title.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You guys come up with something. You message us what you think it should be called.
Yeah. So you're one of those guys who just says, "I just pencil."
I just pencil it. You guys, you tell me what to draw. I draw it. You call it what you like.
And we'll be seeing you work on some of that tonight as well, right?
Yeah. So I've just started on page 7. Page 7. Christ.
Sweet.
Yeah. So we're just going to start laying that down and see what we can break it up.
Sounds good. Next up on Murderer's Row is Aaron Humphreys. Aaron.
I am the penciler or the artist on Fire Rush, and other than that, I just hang out with these guys and stream stuff online. I do my own comic book too, and that's it's one of the issues of my comic that you can. So when I'm not doing that, I'm helping out Silverline. So
yep. And Aaron just gave us the okay, for those of you who are paying attention, just gave us the okay that we're going to get some Godlings as a stretch goal for the upcoming Kickstarter. So this is be your chance to get some of that as well. Next up on my Murderer's Row here is Mike W. Belcher. What's up, Mike?
Hey, how's it going? Hey, I'm Mike Belcher. I am a letterer and production designer at Silverline. And I also publish and create my own comic, Man in the Mask.
That's right. Which, if you have not read, you need to go read. I'll make sure I give you all the links in the appropriate places. But Mike's doing this. He's putting a lot of stuff up for free, so you got no reason not to go read this stuff.
Check
right?
it out.
I will say this: Mike's the guy who designed this this silver. I don't know what to call it here. This trade, the trade masthead trade, whatever. Yeah, he designed this, which I just think makes the books look so sweet. Really stand out. Oh, by the way, I'll get back to this in a minute. And last but not least is Chuck Bordell, my longtime pal, Chuck.
Hiya.
What's going on, Chuck?
Well, I haven't been to these Sunday gatherings I was at one, looked like a month ago.
Yep.
And I just figured I'd drop in and see how everyone's doing.
Well, we appreciate that. We are live. So Chuck, tell the folks what's some of the stuff you've done with Silverline.
Well, right now I'm inking the White Devil.
Right.
Finishing up that. I'm not sure who inked the first couple issues, but and I've done a whole bunch. Silverstorm 2 I did, and Sirens we did, but that was through Caliber.
Yep. Still a Silverline book. Yeah. And you've seen some
Marauder,
of the colors.
we did.
Marauder. Yep. Which Becca is coloring on. It's kind of on her depth chart. This kind of third on the list.
Right.
Yep. Yep. So and Chuck's been inking for 30 years.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, I think so. Because I know that the Silverline stuff wasn't your first stuff. You had worked with Paul Pelletier on the Alpha books, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did some inking on the Totem series through
That's right,
them.
Totem.
And a couple other things with Paul before he got white hot and drug up to
Yeah.
the big leagues.
That's right. He shot up like a rocket, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Chuck, we're absolutely overjoyed you could join us tonight. You know, of course, I've told you before, love to have you anytime that you're available. I know you're really busy with work and everything, but yeah, glad you're with us tonight.
Thanks.
Behind the scenes, who won't make an introduction, is my son Brett. He is doing all the production. He makes sure that you get to see the images and stuff that pop up on our screens. He's also going to be responsible for making sure you get to see as the artist work tonight. Aaron, I forgot to ask you, you going to be streaming some art tonight?
I would, but I've been working on another project for non-comic related projects, so
Okay.
I haven't been working on anything comic related for a few
that's all
days.
good. Just
But
trying to figure out who our art streamers are. John, you streaming art? I think your answer is a no, right? Because you're outside enjoying the weather and kicked back.
Still got a little bit of rib stuff, grease on my fingers. I'm trying to get off.
All right. Curtis, you'll stream any tonight? Any art?
Actually, I'm working on something, but it's a little on the hush hush. So
Sure.
maybe
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
Listen, if I didn't ask, someone would holler at me and say, "You didn't ask, right?"
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked.
Well, good. So Becca, if you want to pop your stuff up, we'll start off with you, and I guess it's just
I
be
guess so.
you and Pete tonight.
Ladies first.
You're not going to put anything obscene up again, are you?
That was a secret.
So tonight we're talking about. Oh, actually, before we get there, as an update, I know some of you were backers of our projects, our Kickstarters. So I'm happy to say that these are the proof copies of Divinity and Twilight Graham. It's a flip book, as you can see. I keep flipping it. It's just one book, so I'm not trying to do a magician's trick here. You read Divinity this way, and then you get to about the halfway point, and everything is upside down because you got to flip over and then read Twilight Graham from this direction. The new Kickstarter we're going to do will have an exclusive flip book this way too. This is the only way you'll be able to get these flip books, by the way. They're only going to be available as part of our Kickstarter. Once the Kickstarter is over, then you'll still be able to get the books, but they're going to be only available individually. So I can absolutely, I chose the wrong word in my speaking. I can absolutely say these books look fantastic. And of course, they're done by our good pals at Kablam Digital Printing, who prints all of our comics. And Tommy, of course, who is usually on the Wednesday stream, is one of the partners there. So I just can't tell you, I can't find the picture, just how good these things look. Mike did the lettering. Mike, you probably look at that. Look how good your lettering looks on this thing, man. Woohoo! Looks great. So yeah. Oh yeah, I will in just a second. I don't have that up right at the moment. So
do I stream?
Do you stream?
Do you stream regularly, I think is the question.
I don't know if it's obvious, but I really don't. No, I just kind of stream here. Yeah, I'm actually pretty busy with like doing this stuff, and then I have a daytime job, and yeah,
So
I would love to stream more, but I don't.
Would it be fair to say, Becca, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would it be fair to say that we kind of have exclusive rights to Becca Stream?
Yeah, you basically do.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to see Becca Stream, you got to join us here on Sunday nights. That's just what it is, right? You can chat with her and you can ask her to all kinds of questions. We're wide open to questions. We'll be talking about movie stuff tonight, but any questions you have for anybody here, post them up on the chats and I will see them. I have it open now, Brett, so I can see if anyone posts there. And address those questions. So we encourage questions. We want questions because we look at this, especially in the light of we have no conventions to go to while we're in the middle of the plague. Hopefully that this will go over and we can get over soon and we can get back to doing conventions. But this is certainly a way for us to connect with you. And if you've got questions, please don't hesitate to ask. That's what we're here for. This was Twilight Grim and Divinity, and as someone said earlier, we are launching Fire Rush 1 and Bloodline One Shot on Tuesday. As with all Silverline books, these books are finished. We could go to print with them right now, but we can't because we need you and your help to help us fund that. Plus, we need to know who you are so that we can put you on our thank you page. All of those of you who help us do that. So if you like independent books, which you obviously do because you're here watching us tonight, get ready for us to launch the newest Silverline Kickstarter on Tuesday. Also, don't forget we've got a merch store. Thank you for the reminder. We have a merch store that we're every week we're adding some new cool stuff as we can kind of grasp stuff away from the artists. All these cool images that they're doing. We're putting images up on the merch store. So please go check that out. And it's just kind of another way to support us and help us to get stuff that we can get out there, and things like t-shirts and stuff like that. So okay, anything else I forgot before we jump into the topic? Okay, so I don't know if you watched, I don't know if you guys I try to always watch the Wednesdays even though I'm not there, and I'm going to approach it a little bit different. His first question was what movie do you love and what movie do you hate? And my problem was I thought about that and I'm like, I don't know that I can think of a movie that I hate. I don't hate too much. There are movies that I think, yeah, that's pretty stupid, or I don't like that. But so instead, what I'm going to ask is name a movie or two that's your favorite movie, and then maybe a movie that you think is overrated. Right, so not one that you hate, but just one that like everyone loves, and you're like, yeah, I don't see that. Right, I think that one's a bit overrated.
Avatar.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't get Avatar. I don't know why everyone raved about Avatar.
Oh really?
I don't get it. It's an excellent exercise in CGI, but
it's overrated, huh?
I have to agree with Peter on that one.
Okay, wait. You only said the one that's overrated. So what about? So this helps us keep it in perspective, right? So this one's overrated. So what do you like? What are your favorite movie, or one or two or three, something like that?
I don't know. Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
What do I like? I like loads. I know it's comic books, but the Infinity Gauntlet. I thought that was brilliant. That was a bad guy's story, and I loved it.
Yeah.
What else? What have I watched recently? I don't know. Godfather was great.
Godfather.
There's loads of Shawshank Redemption. All those. I love.
Yeah.
They're great films. Yeah, but I could tell you definitely Avatar. Don't get it. Don't get it.
Okay. All right. Who else? What about you, Chuck? What's if you sit down and you got a free weekend, what movie do you go to? What are some of your favorite movies?
Well, all the Indiana Jones movies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Especially the first one. The first time I saw that when I was a kid, I was just blown away by it. So yeah, that's one of my favorites, and I like the Godfather series is another favorite. I've never seen anybody do a mafia-based comic book, but I'm sure there must be one out there.
I would think so too. I mean, that seems too obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They may have. They just may have been whacked in the process. So now they're not around.
We know that the first Cat and Mouse series, the mafia they weren't they were the bad guys. Something the Cat and Mouse had to deal with, but they weren't the protagonist. So that's not quite the same. Dang, Becky, you're moving fast on that. That looks great.
Oh,
by the
thanks.
way.
I know I'm doing this. I'm like, I feel like when people are watching, is they're just like, if they have epilepsy, there should be like a warning at the bottom. I'm so sorry.
No, but actually, I actually think it's really good for for you to scroll out sometimes because
Oh yeah.
as you are now, we can see the whole thing. So it
Mhm.
allow if someone's just popping in, when you're zoomed in, it's hard to see. Well, what the
Yeah.
heck is she inking? And then you zoom
Yeah.
out, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Then you zoom back in, and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm constantly doing that. So I'm sorry.
That's the first time I've ever heard somebody sit there and go, "Hey, I may induce a seizure."
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
what about overrated, Chuck? What do you think's overrated?
Oh, wow. I think that Titanic is way overrated.
Really, you don't love that song so much?
No.
Only when it's done by Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to think of other overrated films, and
See, that was what in listening to the Wednesday stream, that was the thing that I was having a hard time with. Is like, okay, well, it's easier for me to think of stuff that I like more than stuff
yeah.
that I don't like. Like I don't have a tendency to dwell on those, and so that's kind of why I wanted to revise the question just a little bit to make it a little easier. Becca C. Michael says, looking great.
I'm
Yep.
loving these characters so much.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. that makes my heart
It's
go
getting me excited.
patter.
Yeah, that
Good.
character looks awesome.
Yeah, I love the hair.
So Wubba
That's very
says that
Misfits.
he loves Sorcerer and the White Snake, V for Vendetta. Overrated, horrible is DC and Transformer movies. So I'm gonna assume that he means all DC movies and all the Transformer movies, right? And he agrees about Avatar being overrated. Like, but of course, right?
Of course.
It's not a Michael Bay film unless there's a city destroyed.
So, Mike, what about you? What are some of your favorites, and what do you think's overrated?
I've got a bunch of favorites. Probably my go-to is if I'm just really just want to have a nice afternoon. Probably Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh,
Really?
I love that. I love that film.
I'm with you on that. That movie
Absolutely,
is
one,
amazing.
absolutely one of my favorites. And actually, 12 Angry Men probably on the very top of my list. I think
Wow.
it's of the best movies ever made because it's so simple. It's just a bunch of guys in one room, and it's
I was
just
gonna say that's the one that they're all in one room, right?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just 12 wonderful actors just acting and just being very natural. And if anything, it's a nice little nod to anybody who likes independent creation because that's the way you do it. I mean, there's really no frills to it, and you can see how well it's pulled off by very good talent.
Yeah, yeah. Hold your thought there. I'm coming back to you. Max Yeager said Indiana Jones was good. Wish they had more of them. The Alien one could have gone unfilmed though. Tim Miller, my good buddy Tim, says Monty Python's Holy Grail is great. Always a go-to. Max Yeager said Big Trouble was good. And C. Michael says the rejects are very inspiring. Because CC says yes. I'm not sure what he was saying yes to, but I'm sure one of you said something brilliant that he's thumbs upping. He said I'm sorry, I didn't read far enough. He said both of them are great movies. Wubba agrees with Tim. Indiana Jones was it's the same comment there. I'm getting the same comment. Oh, I see. He went from Twitch to Facebook. Anyway, all right, Mike. So back to you.
On the overrated, and let me put a disclaimer out there. I am a Day-Lewis fan, but probably one of the most overrated movies, There Will Be Blood. I went into it wanting to really like it, and by the end of it, I really hated it. So probably that one. That's probably the top of my absolute most despised movie. I just wanted more out of it, and it just was very disappointing. and any movie with Seth Rogen, that would be the next thing. So I'm very actor related on that one. Anything with Seth Rogen will probably be the next one on the list.
Yeah. It's hard for me to disagree with that.
Yeah.
All right. So what about it, John, Curtis, Aaron?
Well,
Sounded like one name, didn't it?
Yeah, I did.
But I guess I'll go next.
Okay.
Overrated. I have to agree with Avatar. That was a whole lot of time and a whole lot of work for something that had next to no real depth and story. And I have to say, favorite films. I have to go Boondock Saints. It's a
I
good
agree with
one.
that. It's a great one.
And Lost Boys.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow, that's good. Cool. Eric Amundsen said, I thought I recently heard they were going to make another Big Trouble. Tim Miller said Star Wars episodes 1 through 3 were terrible. And Lost Boys was good. That was Eric Amundsen. C. Michael says, amen. Anything with Seth Rogen. Cassisi said it was rumored that The Rock would remake Big Trouble in Little China. Not sure if it fell through or not. Yeah, I think that he's supposed to play Black Adam too in the next Shazam, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this with when it comes since we brought up Big Trouble in Little China, I actually know somebody who looks like the villain in that movie.
Oh, really?
Yes, he looks just like that creepy toe Chinaman.
Well, that's easy for you to say, Brian Blessed. For those of you who don't know, I say John looks like Brian Blessed, the guy who played Voltan in Flash Gordon. Yeah, and Brett, if you still got that image, you can pop it up sometime when it's convenient. And we'll just make John groan. So what about it, Aaron, Curtis?
I can go. Okay, so I will do my favorite. My favorite is probably, I don't know if you guys have heard of this movie. It's a movie from the early 80s called Never Cry Wolf.
No.
That's a Disney thing, right? Wasn't it really?
Yes, it was one of Disney's first films. That's probably my favorite film of all time. As far as comic book movies,
Why did it have to be a comic book movie?
Yeah, well, probably the other one would be Dredd.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I like Dredd. And Tron. I'm a big fan of the Tron universe. Now, for the overrated stuff, I'm going to get myself in trouble saying this, but I'll say it anyways. To me, the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, I just do not like any of those movies.
Hey, Brett, let's figure out how to boot him from this stream.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just cannot stand any of those movies.
It's okay to be wrong though, so it's
That's right. Yeah. Thank you, Pete. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Not everybody can be right.
Yeah, that's true.
So I have to ask it, Aaron. What is it about them? Because obviously there's many surrounding you who
they
who
are
disagree with you.
They are the epitome of design by committee.
Okay. Because one of the ones
for 21 movies, I've seen the exact same story, and I'm still surprised to this day. Out of 20 movies, people go like, "It ended like this," and I'm just like, yes, I can see the ending coming a mile away. And the first movie started out good, and then Tony Stark became snarky, and now everyone's snarky, and everything's, and I mean, it's just, I don't know.
I will agree that we did see some of that, yeah.
But they just blend in, and they're just, to me, like very generic. They're the epitome of like. Now, granted, I didn't grow up on superheroes, and Captain America is the only one I like. Like, I didn't like Iron Man, I didn't like Spider-Man, I didn't. X-Men was the only comic book I liked, superhero-wise. But most superheroes I did. I mean, I grew up reading Appleseed, Alien Legion, Predator, Aliens, all that. So when I saw these, I was like, oh yeah, they started out okay, and then they just, to me, you can interchange any one from the other, and they're just all the same, which I think was their point. I think.
Yeah. So you didn't have a lot of the historical sentimentality that
None.
So many do entering the movie.
Yeah. I like the X-Men. Some of the X-Men movies were okay. But the Avengers.
No. So wait. Which ones?
Some of the which ones? Like the first one and the second one, I thought were decent.
Yeah.
I like it when superheroes are more sci-fi, and I don't know. Even when I was a kid, I could not figure out like why would somebody put on spandex to fight crime. Even as a kid, I could never figure that out.
Yeah, I can't forgive them, Fox, for making Sabretooth a moron.
Yeah, that's the one thing. They did kind of redeem him in that Wolverine solo movie, though. The movie wasn't
really.
good, but the guy who played Sabretooth, I thought, did a good job.
Yeah,
And,
he's
and
a
I
very
think
good actor. Yeah.
I think for me that's one of the reasons that the Marvel movies work so much is that for the most part they seem to be truer to the original than say some of the Fox stuff. You know, sometimes you look at some of what was done in the X-Men, you're going, I don't recognize that character at all. Yes, I know who it's supposed to be, but I don't recognize the character. Where for the most part in the Marvel movies, you know, they kind of they look like and I still think a lot of movies are afraid of primary colors.
Yes.
You know, everything has to be too dark. They throw in all these dark shades, which I think it's a mistake. You know, I look back at the 70 Superman movies and going, that's what Superman's supposed to look like. Yeah,
exactly.
Eric Amundsen said, yeah, sometimes. What's
go ahead.
that?
I know I have an unpopular opinion. I have friends that chastise me all the time, and I'm just like,
yeah,
it's like whatever I like, dude.
Yeah. Eric says, yeah, sometimes it can be disappointing when books are put to film, especially when liberties are taken. And I agree with that. I think that's the reason that you almost always hear, I think, the book was better than the movie, right? You rarely ever hear somebody say, well, the movie was better than the book. Royal Airship says this. I guess tonight we're almost like the Mystery Science Theater 3000 movies, and we're leaving him in stitches. Oh no, sorry. I think I misread that. This is what he likes. Almost all the Mystery Science Theater 3000 movies leave him in stitches, so he likes those. All the Tomb Raider movies are overrated. So Curtis, it's either me or you last, man.
All right, I'll get it set up. So yeah, Big Trouble in China, of course. I've seen that movie like a billion gazillion times. So and then another movie that I like with a similar name is called Once Upon a Time in China. It's a series of kung fu movies, and that was so influential on me that I sought out. It's based on the story of a real martial artist, so I sought out that style of martial arts and even trained in Hong Kong and got to train with people within that lineage. And so it was like one of the most influential things for me.
Wasn't that Jet Li?
Yeah, Jet Li. Jet Li. Great film. And I also like Stanley Kubrick's movie, Barry Lyndon. If you haven't seen that, it's just gorgeous movie, all done by candlelight and things like that. It's kind of it's a beautiful movie. And the other one that I really like is a movie called Fallen Angels. It's a Hong Kong movie, and it just has some really unique characters. Like there's a character in it who's mute and he can't get a job. So he goes ahead and he breaks into other people's businesses at night and runs it during the wee hours of the morning. Just very weird story. But Fallen Angels is really good. So.
Cool, it sounds good.
Yeah, it's really, really neat stuff. And for overrated, and I'm going to brace myself for the what's going to come next. But I never got into Forrest Gump. I thought Forrest Gump was just not my bag. And so I don't know what that
I didn't get
means.
it either. So yeah,
okay,
it was
good.
okay, but it was just whatever.
I think it's maybe a little bit of a Southern thing.
Is that what it was?
It's possible because there's a lot of this.
I love Forrest Gump.
Did you?
It's Tom Hanks, and
you
can't not like Tom Hanks for a start.
So Pete, this is a completely different conversation that we're not going to have tonight. But I've always said that Southerners are more like British people than Northerners are. That's a whole other conversation. That's a really long conversation that probably not going to happen tonight.
Roland,
yes, sir.
Roland, you're reaching.
You're reaching.
But no, I agree with Pete. Tom Hanks. It's hard to find a bad Tom Hanks movie, right?
Yeah, he's excellent.
I mean, yeah.
I'm just gonna stay on mute over here, so I'll be on.
No. Forrest Gump would not certainly be one of my top movies. So since Curtis is muted, I guess I guess it's my turn then. As I've said before, I don't watch a whole lot of television, so I have a tendency to have a lot of favorite movies. a lot of movies that I watch. I don't have a lot that we talked a little bit earlier. I don't have a lot that I don't like. So I'm just gonna kind of name off some of the ones I like. I love the Pink Panther movies. Those are some of my go-to movies. Peter Sellers, I think is just absolutely hilarious. So I can watch Shot in the Dark and Pink Panther, and I can watch those multiple times, and they're still funny to me, even though I know what's coming. My kids almost won't watch it with me because I start laughing before the jokes because I know the joke that's about to happen, and so I start laughing in anticipation of what Peter Sellers is about to do. Not anything. So I love the Peter Sellers Pink Panther movies. Costner did a couple of good movies that I liked. He did The Untouchables, which I thought was really good. He did Dances with Wolves, which I thought was an incredible film. I do have a tendency to like historical based movies as well. So there, of course, there's those two. I liked.
I'm just waiting for it, Roland.
What? You think there's one that I'm going to mention, huh?
Oh, I know there's one you're going to mention.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Flash Gordon, right? I mean, that goes without saying, I think.
Never
but, you know,
heard of it.
Yeah. That's 2 strikes, Aaron. Be careful, man.
I've never seen it either.
Oh, you've heard of it though, right?
When you brought it up, yeah.
What? No way. So yeah, the only reason I went to see Flash Gordon, not the only reason, but the biggest reason I went to see Flash Gordon when it came out was because I was a huge Queen fan, and Queen did the entire soundtrack for it. So I'm like, I don't care what movie it is. I mean, I went to go see One Vision and Iron Eagle. I went to see those that Queen did music for too, and those aren't in my top movies, right? But that was the only reason I went to see those, is because of that Queen did the music to it. Yeah, and it ended up being a very good, goofy, wonky, long sound film of mine. So there was that. I liked. These are some of the ones that I kind of go. These are my go-to films, right? There's also Braveheart. I'm a big fan of Braveheart. I'm a big fan of. Oh shoot, what's the other one he did about the Liberty Independence-minded guy?
Patriot.
Patriot, yeah. Oh, why? I should have thought about that, seeing as that what weekend it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love. I love both of those movies. They're very much the underdog kind of thing. Yeah, I could probably go on. I do the movie that I think. All right, I'm prepared myself now. The movie that I think is shouldn't have been filmed is the third Nolan Batman. I just think now I liked the first 2 okay, but the third one I can't remember. I always have problem remembering the name. It's so bad.
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises. Thank you. I think that is one of the worst uses of film I've ever seen. I could not stand that movie. I mean, all the way through it, I'm like, that's stupid. That's stupid. That's idiot, right? I think it's. And I know it's not necessarily hailed as one of the best Batman movies, but I have heard people say it's their favorite movie, and I'm like, what the heck are you drinking?
I think I might be shunned if I ever say the one that I'm not very fond of would be all the Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Ooh. I've seen them all, and like, I appreciate what they are, but I'm just not a fan. I know I've gotten yelled at plenty of times for that.
Don't worry, Becca. I agree. I like them. They're okay, but they get. I have a hard time getting through them because, again, it's that you got to give me something to grab onto, and I don't know. I mean, I like it. I just got done watching the Rebels TV series, and I had the struggle to get through it. And by the end, there were like magic wolves and I don't know whatever else they were bringing out. I was like, that's cool.
I thought Rebels was a really good series. I really enjoyed that. And the end of the Clone Wars was excellent.
The Clone Wars was good. Rebels was okay.
Brett, my son Brett, likes the. He's told me before, and he may pipe up and say differently now, but he's told me before he thought the Clone Wars was some of the best Star Wars stuff made.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
far
well,
as the movies and stuff, and I go back to the original three, which I guess is 4, 5, and 6 now, right? I like those. I did not like the ones after that. Several messages here I want to run through. Wubba says Jet Li was awesome. Royal Airships, you're totally right, Roland. Both lost, probably referencing some of the movies I was talking about. Eric says the language certainly is more UK-ish derived. Wubba said, I like Forrest Gump, amazing storytelling. C. Michael says, sorry, but The Burbs was not that great.
Excellent. An excellent film. Excellent film.
Burbs great.
I will always watch it when it's on TV.
Eric Amundsen said the Pink Panther movies are great. I agree. Cassisi said Iron Eagle. Wow. I'm not sure if that's a good wow or a bad wow. Royal Airship said Queen's Highlander theme song was great. I'm
Yes, it
sorry.
was, yeah.
I'm having a delivery of liquid refreshment here, so I'm going to take my liquid refreshment. Oh, thank you so much, liquid refreshment deliverer girl, who happens to be my wife that I love so very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Be patient. Let's see. See, Michael says Highlander. Oh, that's right. Crap. How can I forget Highlander? Oh, see, I knew there was another one on my list I was forget. Queen music. Absolutely. I did. So, okay. I find myself talking too much. I apologize. As a dad, I made it my point. I said, my kids are going to watch all the cool movies, right? And so things like Monty Python and Blazing Saddles, which is hilarious. They all watch. They watch both of them, right? They're 5 years apart, but they watched them when they turned 15. I just immediately started watching all these movies with them, right? So when they get into school, they've seen all these cool movies, The Princess Bride, things like that. They've seen all these cool movies that none of their classmates have seen. So that's one of those cool dad moments that I don't have a whole lot of those, but that's one of those I get to say I did that right. So yeah, Highlander was one. Oh, that was my point. Highlander, when I watched that with the kids, I'm like, the special effects aren't as good as I remember them being in 1986, but the movie is still good. I can still quote most of it. Cassisi says yes. Oven says I refuse to see it. I'm not sure which one he's talking about. But one of the movies we were talking about. Cassisi says the third Alien film was horrible. Tim Miller said, wow. See, some of these I can't get because all I get is the one comment and that I don't know which they're responding to. Eric Amundsen said, Highlander, the first one and the series were good. Patriot, Braveheart. Yeah, you know what? I've heard about the Highlander series, but again, it's TV and I just haven't had a chance to watch it. Wubba Fett is really sad that Becca doesn't like Star Wars. He gives
So are we.
I'm
So is everybody.
You're not the only one.
Just shocked. Shocked.
Oh yeah, see, Michael said it's a good thing Tommy's not on, Becca, because he loves Star Wars.
Yeah, my brother's a massive Star Wars fan too, so he just looks at me like, "How are we related?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Right. Oh, Oven said, yeah, the third Nolan Batman film he refused to watch. Eric Amundsen said, I was in England and fell asleep in the theater while watching Attack of the Clones. Oh, I see where Royal Airships now. He said, I said Brits and Southerners, and he said they both lost. Yeah, Royal Airships, I think I'm going to unfriend you for that comment. That wasn't very nice. Tim Miller said, Flash, cool. Yes, of course it's cool. I can quote the whole movie just about. Wubba Fett said Flash is cool. Tim, B movie, kind of awesomeness. I agree with that. Tim says too cheesy for me. Well, that's okay. And Cassisi said no one said Star Trek. Interesting.
Oh,
that is kind of interesting.
Massive Star Trek. I'm sorry, I'm a massive Star Trek fan. Although when my top films probably only First Contact, and the original Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Well, that was.
I just think that's the TV series are so much. Most people think of television series and movies when it comes to Star Trek. I think.
Yeah,
That's
I
why I
agree.
don't think anyone jumped to mind. I mean, if you do that, I mean, the Next Generation series. I mean, that would say, yeah.
Yes, yeah, excellent. Yeah.
I liked Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, the book was better.
Yeah.
I'm still reading it. It's been 4 years. I have like the massive collection in one book, and it's just like.
If you can get the BBC radio player, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's hilarious.
Oh, really?
It's really, really well done. Yeah.
I have to check that out. I will say, so Becca, my roommate for about a year and a half in college was a guy by the name of Stephen Butler. Are you familiar with him? Did lots of stuff for Marvel.
His name does sound familiar.
He did Sonic the Hedgehog for a long time. Yeah, I know you knew who he was, Curtis. I wasn't asking you.
Oh no, I thought I give you the assist. I give you the assist.
Oh, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So he was my roommate for about a year and a half, Becca. And of all the people I've known, Stephen Butler has read the first 20 pages of more books than anybody I know. he would literally, he'd lay down and to read, and he'd fall asleep and the book would fall on his face.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
And he would read about 20 pages, right? And then he'd just go read something else. It's like, he goes, yeah, I guess if I fell asleep in 20 pages that didn't interest me enough. I'm like, no, it was 3 a.m. in the morning when you were reading. Of course you fell asleep.
Well, with the Hitchhiker's Guide, I had brought it to work, and I forgot it at work, and then completely forgot about the book. And then like 3 years later, I was like cleaning out my classroom, and I found the book, and I was like, this is where I left it. So, but like in between moving and stuff like that, it's just been on my shelf ever since.
So
I should pick it up.
I have to ask you, you don't really have a lot of time to read while you're at work, do you?
I don't. Well, like when I'm at the daycare when the kids are sleeping, yeah, I read.
Okay, all right.
Well, I used to read. Now I draw or ink.
Tim Miller said Spaceballs. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, I like Spaceballs.
Yeah. All right. So, any other thoughts on really good ones or overrated ones, Curtis?
I got one that I should have mentioned. That's one of my favorites of all time. Is the anime Akira. Akira is like one of my hands down favorite. Just changed the way I viewed everything.
Wow, yeah, that was pretty much every time. I think that's what ruined me for Disney. I used to be a Disney fan, then I saw Akira, and then afterwards everything Disney made, I'm like, yeah, but that's not Akira. It did. It really absolutely just destroyed me. I love Don Bluth. I'm a huge Don Bluth fan though, so yeah.
Yeah. Now, so Curtis, you must have been about 10 when you saw this, huh?
So just quick one is, it was for my 12th birthday, and my mom was saying, what do you want to do for your birthday party? I said, well, there's this anime I want to see called Akira, and it's at this art house theater. So she packed me and my friends in a car, and we went to see this ultra violent, realistic dystopian movie with like people's arms getting severed. Halfway through, my sister and her walked out because they were getting nauseous. It was like the best 12th birthday party a kid could have.
Hey Curtis, since you like martial arts movies, did you ever see the Raid series?
Yeah, the Indonesian ones. Yeah,
those movies are amazing.
Those are really cool. Really cool.
So you know what else I found interesting? No one mentioned any made-for-TV movies.
Now I'm trying to think about. Well, there's all my favorite Hallmark movies.
There's a Tom Hanks one. Has anybody seen Tom Hanks in Mazes and Monsters? That's a good Tom. So it was back when Dungeons and Dragons was kind of the thing everybody was attacking for being satanic and bad and things like that. And Tom Hanks was in a TV movie where he played a guy who was playing Dungeons and Dragons and started hallucinating. And
that's right.
You can find it on YouTube. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have heard of this.
And that is a good Tom Hanks movie, by the way. So I highly recommend it.
You know, another one, Curtis, I kind of have expected you to mention this one, but another one of my go-tos, and I'll tell you another proud papa moment, is The Seven Samurai.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's phenomenal. It's been remade how many times?
I know.
Yeah. But the original is still, I think, the best, right?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So who hasn't seen this? Becca?
Hey.
You probably
right.
probably have. I'll say this: if you've watched Star Wars, you've seen a version of the Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
I think every episode. I mean, The Mandalorian in the first season got theirs in. I think there's one in Clone Wars. I think there might be one in Rebels. Yeah, almost everyone has the Seven Samurai, which I mean, I totally understand it was a huge influence in the movie, but they do a variation of it like every
Yeah.
series.
Now, Pete, you've seen it, right?
I've not seen Seven Samurai,
Seven
but
Samurai.
I know it's the basis.
You know what it is.
Of
Yeah.
so many films. Yeah.
And Chuck, you've seen it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I got fortunate, y'all, when Blockbuster went out of business. I actually bought the CD off the shelf from Blockbuster, so we own it, and so I got to show it to my kids, right? When I told you I was showing those movies. Well, here's a proud papa moment. My son was probably 17 or something like this, you know. I come home from teaching one day, and he's sitting on the couch, and he's watching Seven Samurai, just him alone, no mama, no friends, no nothing. I'm like, "What you doing, buddy?" He said, "Watch a movie." I'm like, "Seven Samurai?" Yeah. He's like, I said, "Why are you watching that one?" He goes, "Because it's good." I'm like, "Okay." Yep.
That's when you know you raised him right.
That's what that I leveled up as a father, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Royal Airship says anything made by Miyazaki, which, yep. Amundsen says, Eric Amundsen says, "Hey, what about E.T.?" Anybody?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
He's good. Yeah.
There's a lot of good films out there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think my favorite is Young Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
I love that movie. That's fantastic.
I can watch that over and over. Yeah. And any Monty Python movie. I've always loved comedy, so.
No one's mentioned Lord of the Rings.
I actually
That's
just
true.
saw
Because
that
nobody wants to
my
get.
first year
Well, the
at school.
books are better than the movies. So why?
C. Michael said Gulliver's Travels with Ted Danson.
That was a good film. Yeah.
I don't know that I remember that one. Merlin for NBC was good. I remember the British Merlin TV show. We watched that. That was pretty good.
No, you thought so, huh?
Well, yeah, I didn't say it was great. I said it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was all
right. See, Michael says saw Mazes and Monsters a few times. Wife owns it. Wubba says he thinks it came out in the 90s. Cassisi said great movie. The original is amazing. And then he said The Magnificent Seven. Which, I mean, it's good as Americanized version of it. The original, Cassisi says the original 49 Ronin is good as well. I don't know that I've seen that one. I'll have to look that one up. And then, of course, Eric Amundsen said Young Frankenstein was good. I think I probably watched Young Frankenstein with Eric Amundsen a time or two. Eric Amundsen is another former roommate of mine. I had lots of roommates in college. Before we get into the next question, Eric Amundsen had one more comment here. He said, when he was a kid, PBS used to show all the Japanese films during the summer. And he was introduced to a lot of the classic Japanese movies before he really had any idea what they were. And I can remember as I was a kid, when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of the Godzilla movies and the monster movies on Saturday afternoons, which was always cool. I'd watch the cartoons in the morning, and then I'd watch, a Lone Ranger episode, and then watch some monster movies. So yeah. All right. So the next thing we're talking about movies and kind of how they influence art, because as creators, we do have the tendency to be influenced by the things around us. We have the tendency to be influenced by the other people. And I'll tell you guys, I'll be honest, one of the reasons I like these things here is they're kind of like a weekly powwow for us. And for me, it helps me to keep my creative energies going because I get to see Becca do these cool things on screen. I get to see Pete doing these cool things on screen, right? I get to see Aaron and John and all these things that we're talking about, right? I get to see these happen, and we have this creative energy that just tends to be contagious, right? And so that's part of the reason that I like these. So we are influenced by a lot of the things around us. Hello, Tommy. Tommy says, sorry, I'm late. Hello, everyone. But so the next question that we're going to ask is that how does think of a movie and how it's influenced you as you're creating, and particularly I guess for pencilers, how does it affect your shots? For writing, how does it affect a mood or tone? Same for inking, and coloring. How does How does it affect the light sources or the tone that you use in what you're doing? Essentially, how does this thing affect what you're doing creatively? Somebody jump in.
Okay, I guess as a penciler, you're sort of the director and the actor. So whether I'm aware of it or not, when I watch a film, I'm probably taking into account or absorbing the camera angles and the acting of whoever's on screen, because I've got to at some point try and relay a story dynamically and interestingly, rather than just the same shot time after time. Although I don't know if I'm not watching it thinking, oh, that's a cool angle, because there's only so many angles you can take. But yeah, I mean, I studied theatre for a while, and directing and acting. So I definitely can consider that stuff when I'm penciling.
So I'm going to ask you this, and I'm asking you because you studied theater, and I know a little bit about it, not a lot, but so one of the big differences between theater and film and television with the actors is what?
Well, yeah, you can't get close. You can't get close to see.
Yeah.
Facial expression. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I know that theater actors are often trained and taught to do is be visually expressive.
Yeah.
Not just in the sense of volume, but you have to be visually expressive. And this is one of the things that I try to teach in my class, is that we, as comic book writers, we have to include those things for the artist. Is like you don't, of course, Pete, you and I are working Marvel style, so you've got a plot to go through, and so there's not a lot of dialogue in there. Try to give you hints and clues as to what they're talking about. But the important thing, I think, to communicate to you is our emotions and physical reactions that the characters have, so that you can then bring those to life.
Yeah.
And you don't need all of those things in movies a lot of times, because, as you know, the camera can get closer to the characters.
Yeah, you can get a bit more subtle on camera than you can obviously in theatre. You can't do the subtle facial expressions. You won't see that from 50 rows back.
No, you won't. Yeah.
So yeah.
So do you find yourself ever trying to say, oh, I like that camera angle, I like the way they went from this angle to this angle? And do you ever find yourself saying, well, let me see if I can do that on this thing that I'm working on?
I think I don't deliberately do it, but I think when I'm envisioning the next panel or the next page, I probably stumble across something and say, oh, that looks good, because I think I've seen something similar in a film, and that worked, and that was a cool angle. I don't go back, right, I've seen this really cool shot in the film, I need to squeeze this in somewhere. But yeah, I've had it when it's like, oh yeah, now this, and sometimes it's actually, it may even be another comic, because that was a
yeah.
Hey, that Bernie Wrightson thing he did there was pretty cool. I'm going to try and replicate that.
Yeah. Most of the things Bernie Wrightson did was pretty
exactly.
Cool, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's definitely that. Suddenly you get a flash, and it's like, yeah, that worked, and that was cool, and I know this will be a cool shot because it worked somewhere else.
Well, so let me ask you a question then, because I know that we do have some writers that tune into us sometimes. If a writer is writing for you and they have a scene in mind from a film, do you want them to tell you about that? They're like, oh, like this scene from Flash Gordon where he's on the Hawkman rocket cycle. This is what I'm envisioning here. Does that help you?
Yeah, definitely, because it just helps me understand what the writer's trying to get to.
Yeah.
If he says, I want this to be an exact copy of that scene, I might be like, well, yeah, okay, it doesn't really leave me a lot to do.
Right.
Just look at the film and copy it. But yeah, definitely anything that helps me understand what you're, as a writer, trying to convey, then yeah, great.
So you artists will be happy to know that in my class, I do attempt to teach the writers to always make consideration for the artist. And I think I've seen the most common mistake I've seen in scripts is not enough, right?
Yeah.
They'll write, here's what I want in this panel. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really tell, or like Jake steps over the threshold. Well, what does that
Yeah.
even mean? Tell me, is he excited? Is he sad? Is he nervous? Is he right? Give some emotion to the character. Basically, I try to tell them to equip the artist with everything you possibly can, but get out of their way when it comes to determining the camera angle and closeness. Now, obviously, sometimes you're going to say, "Hey,
Yeah,
I want
sometimes I
to
need
be,
it, yeah.
I want to close up here to show he's really scared or excited or something," right? But for the most part, it's like get out of the way of the artist. Just tell them what the story is, and then let them visually determine what that's going to be.
Yeah, that's what I like when writers put links into to reference. So you say, I need like you did on the mask. You put
Oh,
a
cool.
reference. That saved
Yeah.
me having to go and I was like, okay, that's what he wants it to look like. That's easy,
Yeah.
great. Or this guy works in this sort of office, and he gives me a link to this very posh old school office. I was like, okay, so he doesn't want a modern glass effect. He wants all this wood paneling. So that's
cool.
Things like that is cool.
Yeah.
And usually those are oddly links to film sets.
Oh, really?
Because hey, films, you get lots of cameras and shots of film sets and stuff
Yeah.
rather than just stock photos. So you're like, okay, yeah, and film sets. The people who work on film sets, designing film sets,
right?
I think they're amazing, and the attention to detail that goes into this stuff. So yeah, that
Cool.
helps.
Yeah, and so for those of you who are paying attention, the mask that Pete's talking about is going to be seen in the first couple of pages. Our primary character is going to be wearing this mask in the first few pages of the upcoming Champion and Miss Fury miniseries. So, okay, very cool. Who else?
Well, I can talk from a coloring perspective.
Sure, jump in, Curtis.
Yeah. Like I started out initially in comic books doing editorial assistant with Roland, but eventually I moved to color design. And this one director, his name is Wong Kar-wai. He's from Hong Kong, but his cinematographer is a British man named Christopher Doyle. And their collaborations, the lighting, the coloring is just so singular. They did that movie I mentioned earlier, Fallen Angels, another movie called Chungking Express, and which are very modern kind of urban movies. But then they even do martial arts movies. Like they had a movie come out called The Grand Master, which is a martial arts movie, but just very lush, very unusual kind of color schemes, and really influenced the way I see color and lighting.
Cool.
Yeah.
So do you find yourself trying to replicate some of that? Not exactly, but to replicate. Okay, well, they did this in this scene. Let me see if I can replicate that in the scene of mine.
I think with anything like that, and I think Pete kind of hit on it, is it's kind of like even when I analyze it, I try and understand the logic behind it, and not necessarily replicate it one for one, but understand the logic. Like recently, I was watching a TV series. I was doing costume design for my characters for my upcoming project. And I figured out that they had a formula for the actual color scheme, that they basically had this weird color scheme where all the characters looked different. Their outfits were really unique. It was like nothing I saw before. And what the formula was is you had two secondary colors, like a orange and a green. And then you would find what the common primary color is between the two. And then that would be an accent on the uniform.
Huh.
And that's why this series, the costumes were just unbelievably cool, and there was something different about it. And it kind of almost by osmosis first, just watching it, and then all of a sudden it clicked. So then when I knew I was working on my thing, it was to take that logic and put it in there and just see what I could come up with. So I would say never like a one for one, but just understand the concept behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
What about? Yeah.
No, go ahead. What about what?
No. But as a writer, I mean, for you, Roland, I mean, for those of you that do the writing, like, how does that equate to you? You know, I mean, is it because you have to think not just about the visual, but also the storytelling and the characters and all. Do you ever say, like, okay, I want a character who has this same arc, or how does that factor in for the writers?
Yeah,
I'd be curious.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot. Again, you know, I watch a lot of movies, so there's a lot that often for me when I watch a movie, I come out of it like with the idea that I want to make my readers feel the way I do in the scene right here, right now. You know, movies have a great way of doing kind of the roller coaster ride with your emotions. The good ones do anyway, right? They have a roller coaster ride with your emotions. They take you to the highs and to the lows and the highs and the lows, and moving you towards the end. And it's not unusual that I will experience one of those highs or one of those lows and say, I want, you know, in a scene, I'm like, this is what I want this to happen. I want to be able to communicate this and this thing that I'm writing, right? Absolutely. I think that's what I want to do. That's what I kind of pull from movies the most. You know, a lot of people have said to me that, or I should say, some writers tell me that they want their dialogue to be like film and television. And of course, as one who teaches it, I think that's absolutely one of the worst things that we can possibly do, because I think even Pete kind of said this earlier, is that he has to be not just the director, but kind of the actors as well. And for the writer, this is what the writer has to do in a comic script, is that a film or television show or animation, you've got voice actors in animation and you've got actors in film and television. They're the ones who take those words and give life to them. In a comic script, there is no actors, there are no voice actors. It's all on the dialogue. And one of the things that I know that bothers readers sometimes is the use of names. You know, Chris Claremont was fantastic about the way he was able to do it. A little dated now, and when you read it, but still, you look back on it, you never questioned who any of the characters were, because Chris Claremont told you, this is Storm, this is Wolverine, this is Cyclops, right? You knew who the characters were. So many young writers today have an aversion to using the characters' names in dialogue, because they're like, well, that's not how we speak, Curtis. We don't talk like that. You know, I mean, we just don't, in general, Aaron, we don't use each other's names when we're having a conversation. It just feels awkward. Don't you agree, Mike? I mean, it's just, you know, in general, we just don't do that. In a comic book, you have to do that. And the task is to make that as flawless as possible, or as less intrusive as possible, because otherwise, how is the reader going to know? So I can't take dialogue from a film, right? Because it doesn't always work.
It's funny you mentioned that.
Different.
Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying the timing and the pacing are completely different. It's completely different language.
Yeah, when I was interviewing somebody for some journalism I do, I was interviewing this action actor, Scott Adkins, and I was trying to transcribe everything. And it's crazy when you try and transcribe an interview, it makes almost no sense. You have to kind of piece it together, because the way people talk is almost nonsensical when it's put into written form, you know. So there's a big learning experience, and I can totally see what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's probably a lot of things I could say, but more as far as, you know, writing and movies, but somebody else pipe in here.
I don't know. Probably my biggest influence was, well, it was a movie to the end of a TV series, and I may have mentioned this to a few people. When I saw the Neon Genesis Evangelion anime, that really struck me with camera angles. But he did a movie to the end of the series called The End of Evangelion, and that movie was probably the way he did angles and drew emotions out, by color scheme, by placement, by camera angle. Even though it was hand drawn, it was probably the most impactful thing I've seen. And I don't know if it would be impactful if we took away the music and the voice, because the movie has sound and a comic doesn't. So, but just visually, the way he did things, it was impressive, and it also kind of invigorated me to try some of that in my comic, in my book. Now, many like live action movies, I don't know. I usually get more out of it, like animated movies because I can I can see what they're doing drawing wise, I guess. I don't know. I had to think about live action movies. What influences me? I would say Tron.
Oh yeah.
Again, just because of the visuals. I remember when I saw it as a kid, it was so, I've never seen anything like it. And to this day, I still really haven't seen anything like it. And it was just the idea that you can make these, like the whole world in that movie was like this completely surrealistic world that was supposedly real. And that was just something fantastic about that. That was probably the most alien feeling world I've seen in a movie that really felt like that's alien. I've never seen anything like that. And I remember it being a huge impact on me. So beyond that, I can't think of anything else. I don't know. Strangely enough, I get a lot of inspiration stuff from playing video games.
Really?
Just because video games do more world building.
Okay.
Like history, world building.
You just gave me another idea for a future stream here.
Well, because a lot of times if you're playing like a certain character who's repeating a move over and over again, pretty soon that move gets stuck in your head, and pretty soon I'm drawing that move from that angle, that whatever.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's a little different because movies you're seeing a story, games you're seeing a story, but you're also more existing in that world because you get to go explore in like a movie. So yeah, they're a little more impactful to me. Much more, I can contribute much more things I do to video games than movies. So
yeah, interesting.
I like claymations a lot.
Yeah.
Of like that aspect, that those type of movies inspire me more for like drawing. I'm a massive fan of Wes Anderson, like all of his films, not just his claymations, but Fantastic Mr. Fox, like the colors in it, the textures, and it was just so beautifully done. Like I could just like click on it from frame to frame and frame and just be in awe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you like Wallace and Gromit?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
What has he done?
Well, that's it. That's the name of the film.
Yeah.
The series.
Oh, that's the
Wallace
name of
and
the
Gromit.
series?
Wallace and Gromit.
It's claymation.
They also did
What's that, Mike?
They also did Chicken Run and Shaun the Sheep.
Oh, okay. No, Chicken Run.
Yeah.
Same studio.
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name, but
Andy Park.
oh, okay.
And Aardman Animation.
Aardman Animation,
Yeah.
I just know I love Wallace and Gromit. Yeah. Actually, I was introduced to, you guys will appreciate this. I was introduced to Wallace and Gromit by the artist Kyle Holtz. I met Kyle. I had worked with him already for several years, and I met him in Dragon Con. First time I'd ever met him in person, and we met randomly, and so I said, "Hey, you got a minute? Let's hang out and talk." He said, "Actually, I'll talk with you, but you got to come with me." I'm like, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going to watch Wallace and Gromit. They're showing a new," and I thought it was a band, right? Because these conventions are famous for having bands.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what Wallace and Gromit is. And he goes, even more reason you have to come with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I went with him, and we sat through Wallace and Gromit. Of course, I immediately fell in love with Wallace and Gromit. So, yeah, Becky, you got, if you like claymation, you definitely have to look Wallace and Gromit up. There's only like what 6 episodes, something like that, Pete.
So they did Wallace and Gromit. I think they've made 4 films now.
4, okay.
But as I say, they've also done Chicken Run and Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists. If you haven't seen that, it's
Shaun of the Sheep, right?
Yeah, Shaun of the Sheep.
Yeah.
They're very funny.
Yes, they are. They're very funny
and very, very British.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're
I like British stuff. So.
Yeah, I do too.
There you go. You'll love it.
I have a tendency to really like British humor. I don't know why, but I take that, Royal Airships.
It's fun people.
Yes. All right. So what else? John, Mike, Chuck, anything? How did a movie influence you and something you've done?
I don't think cinematically. I guess
really?
I just think of static images. Now movies are an influence as far as mood. I mean, what you're off of something. But as far as the drawing, I guess I've never sit down and watched a movie thinking I like that angle or I like that position. It just, you know, you just kind of look at it in a general feel, I guess, more so than mood.
Well, from your art style, it seems like you're inspired by Paul Dini's stuff, which I mean, his stuff's great, but he didn't do many movies. It was more like, you know, the TV series he did.
Oh, you talking about Bruce Timm?
Bruce Timm. I thought Paul Dini was also one of them.
He was the writer. He was one of the writers.
Okay, that's right. Bruce Timm. Right. Sorry. I knew it was one of them.
Whoops, we lost Chuck.
But first Timm,
He's gone to watch Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what was that, Mike?
You know, cinematically, you know, movies present the story in a certain way, and comics have a different kind of approach. So I guess I've never looked at, you know, I don't guess in my mind, I don't think of how I present the story in a moving picture kind of way. I guess, you know, it's kind of odd to say. But, you know, I just try to think of, you know, like the frames you watch in a film strip in school or something, you know, the little click by click, you know, that's sometimes what, you know, as far as that goes. But as far as movies and, you know, the way it moves, it just completely different.
Well, yeah, and there are a lot of things you can't do. I'll tell you one of the most common, since we're talking movies, one of the most common, where I teach it's an entertainment school. I teach at Full Sail University. It's an entertainment school. Most of our writers want to be film and television writers, and so this is kind of where their focus is. A bunch of them want to be game writers too and other stuff, but that's where probably the majority of them come. And so one of the things that I have to get them kind of beat out of their brains early on is that no, comics, the pictures don't move. And you know, so you can't say panel one, we pan right to see this. I'm like, no, you don't. It's like that's not gonna happen. The artist can't draw that. They can draw one angle and then, you know, or one view and then another view, but they can't actually pan the panel. It doesn't work that way.
Do they put more than one action in the panel?
Oh my gosh!
Because those are my favorite.
Said with not the least little bit of sarcasm in your voice at all. Yeah, that's actually something I frequently say is that, you know, and I encourage them to stick figure it out, because I do often see, you know, character enters a room, does this, and does that. I'm like, not in one panel, they don't. It's like, like, no, you know. So if you only want two panels to if you only got so much space on your page, you've got to decide which is the more important action, and then and then either give voice to it. I picked my let me check my messages, or I'm doing stupid stuff right now, but you know, if you want them to pick their phone up, they enter in, and then the next panel they've got their phone and says, let me check my messages. Well, the reader makes the jump from phone on the table to phone in your hand that the character picked it up, and they have a problem with that because they're used to in film showing all of the let me focus on the hand and up to the, you know, and they don't realize that you can't do multiple actions in one. Of course, you know, then I always get the smart aleck who says, yeah, but what about John Romita and Spider-Man, where you had all those ghost images and Spider-Man jumped around? I'm like, okay, that's a rare thing. Yes, those are, and I love those. Those are beautiful.
Yeah, don't want to draw panel after panel of that and page after page of that.
No,
that's not gonna work.
That's what you get on a big panel that shows Spider-Man start at the top and then he lands at the bottom and you've got the ghost images. Yeah. Yeah. So what
Has
else?
anybody ever listened to old radio dramas? It's funny when you listen to those old things like the old Ranger radio and stuff like that. When they try and describe action, they go, "I'm grabbing this hammer here and I'm gonna hit you in the head." And they go, "Oh, you hit me in the head on my right side." And it's like, it's just the funniest thing when you listen to that. Really antiquated.
Yeah. You know, I think we're veering off. If you've studied writing at all, you know, one of the things that they always tell you, particularly in writing prose, is show don't tell, right? And this is just writing adage, show don't tell. Well, I actually make the counter argument in the comic class. I'm like, well, that's a yes and a no. as a writer, you or as a storyteller, you absolutely want to show, not tell. But sometimes your characters have to tell. You don't want to tell as the writer, so you don't want the omniscient narrator to pipe in and say, and Johnny Bob picks up the hammer from off the table and clocks Thor in the head. I can see that, right? But you can if you only have so much time to do it, you have to have the character say, I've got my own hammer, Thor, plow, okay, it's cheesy, but go with me here for my example, right? But this way the character tells the story and not the narrator. You don't want the narrator to tell the reader what they can clearly see, but it's okay sometimes if the character, not cheesy like you were saying, Curtis, but if sometimes they can help. But if you watch TV, right? Like I said, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but I've certainly, I don't mean to suggest I've not watched any, but the TV shows that are around for a long time, one of the things they're really good at is reminding you of things that you don't know. Like I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Ben Dunn's Warrior Nun Ariella is on Netflix now. The first season was just dropped, and my wife and I have binged a bunch of Warrior Nun. It's just called Warrior Nun on Netflix. Really good. I highly recommend it, you guys. Got some language in it, but it's really, really good. Have you seen it, Curtis? I see you nodding.
No, but I love Ben Dunn stuff, and I knew it came out this weekend, so I got to check it out.
So it is based off that old comic, because I saw it, Warrior Nun, and I'm like, well, yeah, they've done. Okay, so they just took it there. Okay, I'll have to check it out. I saw it, and I was like, yeah, but that looks like I hadn't seen a comic like that. Okay.
Yeah. I think we've binged about 6 or 7 episodes so far, and just started watching it, I guess, Friday or Saturday. I can't remember now. Yeah, we binged quite a few, but it's really good. I highly recommend that. But one of the things they do sometimes is they'll remind, if like you watch the episode 7, a character will say something to kind of remind you. Right. And you're like, yeah, but I've been watching the other episodes. You don't have to remind me. And this is, I think, part of the problem with reprints is that in trades, when you got a book that comes out monthly, if it's been 30 days between one episode or one issue and the next issue, sometimes you need to be reminded in the issue, why are we here again? Oh yeah, that's right. That's because, Magneto captured Rogue and we've got to go rescue. Oh, okay. Right. If you're reading it in a trade, you don't need to be reminded because you just read it, Right. So there's always that kind of difficulty in the presentation that way. Yeah, Wubba says it's really good. Talking about Warrior Nun, and then when he's talking about stuff for the artist, he said that stuff is great if the writer includes that info. And I think movies really help with learning camera setup and mood lighting. I've been binging movies lately for that purpose. So anybody else want to talk about anything that's influenced you directly into your work?
I mean, I steal color schemes on movies. They you can find them online. If you can look up a movie and they all have the palette of all the colors on it. And sometimes if I'm having a hard time feeling a mood for a page, I'll just kind of go around and look. I'm like, all right, that's a cool mood, and then I'll steal the colors and just go with it.
Oh, that's cool. So they give you an entire palette?
Not always the entire palette. Sometimes it's just the primary, and then you've got to go in with the shadings and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So do you have an old-fashioned color wheel? You'll appreciate this. I don't know if you know what this is. Curtis, you'll probably recognize this.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool.
It's a color chart. This is I've had this thing for 40 years probably.
Oh my gosh. No.
Wow.
This just basically tells me if I want this color, then it's upside down. If I want this color, then it's 40% R, 50% blue, right?
I kind of have that, but
oh yeah, cool.
Do you guys ever use Cooler?
Cooler?
Cooler
that's Photoshop, right?
Adobe Cooler, Kuler. It's online.
No.
Okay.
You guys never use that? So cooler is basically if you pick a color, like
Yeah.
any color you want, and you go into it and drop it in this sort of, you'll see in the program this arrow, this sort of primary color. It'll give you every other color that goes with it, and you can go for like monochromatic, like all the color
Fun.
schemes down there. So yeah, if you go to Cooler and just you explore the site, I've used Kulu for years. Somebody introduced it to me a few years ago.
It's
And
cooler with a K.
Kuler. Put Adobe before it, and you'll see it. And it just basically, if you drop any color, it'll tell you every other color that goes with it through multiple color schemes. And then it also gives you the Pantone numbers, RGB numbers, everything. It's like an invaluable site if you're doing coloring at all.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
One of the things that I would really like to do, and I realize we're straying off topic now. One of the things that I would really like to do is create palettes for the Silverline characters. I know that this is something that Malibu used to have, and the reason we had it was because the screens, right? The screens are all going to look different. You and I, you could share your color file with me, and it's going to look a little bit different on my screen. Tommy, if he's still listening, he can probably tell me exactly why. But there's something about the way that the screen is configured for your screen and for my screen, that it's going to make it look just a little bit different. So I might see something on your screen, and when I get it, I'm like, ooh, that's really not red enough, right? It's supposed to be more red. And you're looking at it and you're like, no, it's really red. It's because our screens aren't calibrated. That's what it is. Our screens aren't calibrated to what the actual colors are. And so Malibu created a palette for each of the characters, so that when the colorists were working on them, they would go to the palette and choose that palette. And I think, if I remember correctly, they had like, here's the primary character's color, and here's the light, the one step light, two step lights. Here's one step dark, two step dark, and they shared it amongst themselves. That way, it didn't really matter what it looked like on their screen, as long as they had the palette correct.
Yeah.
Then it would match throughout. And another reason they did that is because we had teams of anywhere from 4 to 6 colorists on a team. So a team would get one book, and so you would have 4 to 6 people coloring one book, and they wouldn't all color. So they wouldn't color even in sequential pages. I mean, they were coloring sequential art, but they might not color sequential pages. They would just randomly get pages assigned to them. And so rather than risk all the different variations of color, they had palettes, so that when it was done, yes, you had, a four or five different people working on it, but the palettes were all the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we had the color designer position, which is what I was doing then, but that's defunct now. But that was basically like the director of all the coloring.
Yep.
Yep. I know we're kind of going off, but I had a question for you, Roland. I still remember you used to have, like, in some of the earlier books, we would see the books and it would actually have the notations for the actual codes for the color. Like, you would have the character, you would have an arrow, and you would write, like, this is D168 or whatever.
Yeah, right.
For every single color, right? That was for the printer to make sure that it matched up. We only did that for a little while, but
so I don't remember sending that to the printer. I remember giving that to the colorist. I remember Color Guidist putting those numbers on the guides for the computer colorist to do.
Okay.
And I'm not saying we didn't send them to the printer. I'm saying I don't remember ever doing that.
Did you guys use Pantone colors a lot when you did the books? Yeah. I think those are, if I remember, it's been a while. I think those are printer friendly colors.
Yeah.
Colors that I think most people had, unless you had to do different, then they had to mix them and they charge you more.
Jacob Bear says, who's drawing on the screen right now? Jacob, that is Pete Clinton. And Pete is drawing, I think you said it was page 8, Pete?
Page 7.
Page
And
7.
It's not really drawing, it's just scribbling until something makes sense. So I'm working on the layout. Yeah, I'm doing the layout, and then we'll try and progress.
Cool.
I'm just trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out the body language of the characters, and like we're talking about what shot frames it best, frames the story best. Yeah.
So actually, this is actually good, because this is what we were talking about a little earlier. You're actually now in that process of choosing the angles.
Yeah.
And then also working with the character's body language to make sure that the actors are communicating what you want them to communicate.
Yeah. So first and foremost, we've got to tell the story, right? So you've got to figure out how best, and then from there, the body language and trying to change the camera angles and make it high or low, zoom in, zoom out.
Yeah.
To make the page interesting to look at, so it's not all just headshots or waist up shots.
Yeah.
And if you watch a film, the film isn't just static, just like you would get on a theater stage.
Right.
It moves around and moves in and moves out. And
yeah.
Yeah.
As far as, so since we're talking about this still is about film. As far as moving in and moving out, what would you say is probably the hardest thing to do in choosing the camera angles? What do you have to think about when you're choosing how close do I put the camera, or how much do I pull back, or what angle do I use? Yeah, I know that's a long, deep question, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends on. So I go from the script, right? So we got a page. You've written the plot for the page. I have to figure out from what you've written what I feel is the most important shot, or which shot is going to have the most dialogue on it, and then I'll make that one the largest panel. And some where you've said, "Oh, the expression is this,"
right.
or there's a particular emotional current to what's going on, then I might throw in a close up then, because it's important how the characters look and how he's reacting. You wouldn't get that from a really far distant shot where the character's really tiny.
Yeah.
And then I'll go in and try and I guess I'll try and figure out what's interesting for me, what angle I think would be. It's like, I suppose when you're writing, you write what you would find interesting.
Right.
I'm trying to draw what I would be interesting to look at.
Yeah.
And I've got this panel here, panel 1, 2, 3, and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out. So the guy's holding up the hero's costume, looking at it. He's trying to make a recommendation, and I'm sure I've seen somewhere 1,000 times where these guys hold it up and they're stretched, they're putting the sleeve, put it like a tailor, he's putting the sleeve out, looking at it. So I'm just trying to figure out. I think that would be a cool shot. But at the moment, what I've got is the size of him in panel 3 is the same size as him in panel 2, and that to me is boring. It just it's too repetitive. So I'll either rework it. But I really like the idea of him stretching out this costume to look at it.
Yeah. So actually, I appreciate what you said about as far as your decision making, how for panel 2 and panel 3, the size of the characters are too much similar. Which basically means, I'm getting an echo suddenly from somewhere.
Yeah.
Which basically means the distance from your camera to your subject is roughly the same, right?
Yeah. So you've changed, and but you haven't changed. It's the same, and I think that's just, and even the way the angle is, it's not straight on. I've now pulled back from it because I can zoom in and zoom out.
Right.
And now when I zoom out, I can see the full page, and I realize they're almost identical, and that's not cool. That's not cool in comics, and cool in comics is money.
Yeah,
and it's not cool.
You're absolutely right.
It's I can thank my teacher Kim DeMolder for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool in comics is money. That's right.
It's funny. I was listening to you talk about it. I struggle with that too, because I'm doing one of my issues. I think I'm doing I think it's a 9 or 10 page conversation, and of course it's a relevant conversation, but I struggled with different angles, and so my big struggle is the tone of the conversation. If you change too many of the angles, if you do too many intense angles, it changed the tone of the conversation to borderline to be an argument. And so a lot of my panels kind of look the same, from the waist up, or headshots waist up. And I thought that's bad, but I'm but if I focus on the acting, the actual emotion of the characters, then that would be, because I'm always like, and this again back to the movies. There was a movie in the first Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise,
Hmm.
and it's right after his team gets killed, and he's meeting in that diner with the fish tank where he blows up.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
watch that scene, and it gets more intense. And the more intense it gets, the more they change the angle, and they change the angle to show the intensity. So that's the part, because when I used to read like Strangers in Paradise and like Bone, I noticed they didn't change angles. They didn't do that, and I was like, well, why? Why not? Why are they not doing this sort of stuff you see in superhero books? Like, why is it? And it worked. I mean, I couldn't see reading Strangers in Paradise with the angles and stuff you see in superheroes because it would change the tone of the entire book. And so I don't know. I've studied that a lot, and I don't know if I'm right. Then maybe my book would bore the hell out of people, but I have noticed that sometimes I'm just like, no, I'm not going to worry about angles and dramatic effects and just focus on the acting of the characters and carry the scene.
Yeah, I sometimes like that when they have almost the shot's almost repeated.
Yeah,
the expression on the face changes because with the expression on the face is more important than just having
right. The
different
body
camera
language
angles.
and the expression of the face or whatever. That's yeah. I don't know. It's definitely something that I've struggled with because I always feel like, well, should you do a top down and a bottom
Yeah,
up
yeah,
scene? And then when I ask that, I'm like, would that really bring anything to what's happening? And I'm always like, no, not in
yeah,
this scene. Other scenes, yes, but not in that one.
yeah.
So I don't know.
That's our job. Our job. We're storytellers, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to
Well,
figure out how best to tell the story, and
absolutely.
sometimes that
Yeah.
means you could do the crazy camera angles, but sometimes that just means having a straight on
Not.
headshot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I try to tell my students is that talking head scenes are almost always inevitable. You're going to get every
Yeah.
story that you're going to have a scene where characters are going to stop for a moment and talk. The trick, I think, the trick that I kind of teach in the class is that you're going to have a talking head scene, but try not to make the characters actually stop. We don't want to see them sitting on a couch having a conversation because visually that's kind of boring. Um, excuse me. It can work in television because again you have movement. So my argument is always the characters can have a talking head scene, but they always need to be doing something, right? And then I use the example of someone like Brad Pitt. Okay, if you know anything about Brad Pitt, the actor, you know that whenever he's in a slower scene, he eats. He's always eating something, whether it's an apple or eating on nuts or something like that, right? And this is just part of what he brings into the slower scenes because, again, no one wants to sit there and just watch the talking head scenes because those can have a tendency to get visually boring. Um, Curtis, I saw you about to laugh. What you laughing about?
No, I was just I was just thinking. It just kind of occurred to me that we kind of haven't covered the interim part of one of the things that's so important is like storyboard artists are that kind of marriage between the two art forms, to some degree, and it's just fascinating when you see, like I know a bunch of people that have worked at Warner Brothers Animation and stuff like that, and when you get to go to their offices and see the storyboards and see them do a whole dialogue scene, and then see the animatic, it's just fascinating to see how they stage it. And just like you're saying, I mean, the person will be walking over to the window, looking out there because that references them looking out and being sentimental about something, and then they spin around quickly, and so that's kind of why I was kind of laughing because it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think really it kind of boils down to is that we don't want to see any of the characters just being static, because we want to see movement. And I always get that students are all. Some of you guys are closer to the student experience than others, but I always get the student argument. Yes, but that's what they would be doing in real life. I'm like, yes, but this is not real life.
Yeah.
This is a comic book, right? We're not writing real life. We're writing a comic book. We're writing visual entertainment, and I don't want to see two people sitting on the couch having a conversation for 3 pages.
I remember we actually had an assignment about that, and it was when Fernando Ruiz was my teacher. And he was saying that if you even like come up ahead above the table and looking down, they could still be sitting around the table, but you don't have to do insane camera angles. But like try to just get different
Right.
shots of them sitting there, so you're not just staring at a head, at a head, at a head, at a head
Yeah.
every scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strangely enough, I did that, like in the scene I'm referring to. That's the actual comic I'm working on now. There's a book in the scene that is this character like introduces this book she wrote about their previous adventures to the character, and so I actually use them holding that book as the prop. So I have certain scenes where he'll be talking and he'll like fold the book up, and the next scene he's like holding the book to his chest, or he's like holding the book this way. So his so even though it's moving in the movement, he's actually still talking, but it's like somebody interrupting with the book. So he's doing something with the book. There's even a scene when this lady comes in and it's like kind of it surprises you two in the conversation, like, oh, a third party comes in, and the whole scene is just them handing the book to each other. Now
Yeah.
they're not referring to that, but that's
Right.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm just carrying that. So I just technically use this book as a prop to make interesting poses. Again, like
Yeah.
I said, I don't know if any of this stuff will work, but
Yeah.
give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
See,
And
that
again,
was so cool.
That's cool.
That's
Yeah.
really cool, Pete. That's such a great solution. Man. Awesome. Great to see work.
yeah.
We changed the angle.
Uh,
After all that, we changed the
Love
angle.
it.
Yeah, very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love to watch that too. So what about? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to the QBs here. But what about this thing called 22 panels that always work? You guys
I think I
familiar
still
with
have
that?
that. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
in my
so
notes.
It's on my phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Saved on
yeah,
my phone.
yeah. Like all over here, it's just like I have every note I've taken all 3 years and textbooks
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, I throw that stuff out.
Yeah,
It used to be like taped. I have a glass graphing table, so it used to be taped underneath, so it was like always right there for me to see.
Yeah.
Aaron, are you familiar with it?
Never heard of it.
No, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I'd
John,
be curious to
John,
see.
Mikey, you know what it is, don't you?
Wally Wood. Yeah, Wally
Yep,
Wood.
yep,
Hollywood, yeah.
yep. John, you familiar with it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Actually.
So have you guys ever seen the 22 panels always work interpreted into the film?
No.
Yeah, I'll send that link to you guys as well. Because one of the things that happens in my class is I'll show this, and then again, some smart aleck student was like, "Yeah, but I want to be a film writer. How does this help me?" And some university student took the 22 panels that always work and translated it to film, and I'm like, "Oh, that is beautifully done. Very, very awesome to see how it translates to film. So you still get the same kind of angles and images and stuff like that. I'll make sure that I'll share, and I'll share with everyone on the stream as well. But I'm looking at my clock, and it's man, time has flown here. It's been an enjoyable night. You guys talking about I know, right? It's like what the heck? How did it get to be 10:50 already, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun talking about films and how they influence our creative work. And how we can utilize that in what we do. But I guess we got to call it a night. Guys, tomorrow night I'm excited to let you know that I am going to be Silverline 101 with Jackson Rennick. Jackson is he did quite a few books for Silverline back in the day. He did Silver Storm, the second volume. He did Marauder. He was a penciler for that. He is also the penciler for R.A.'s White Devil, which Chuck was finishing up inking, and Elena or Lena?
Elena, I think.
Elena. Okay, yeah. I asked her.
I'm gonna be horrible if I'm wrong.
Well, you know what? I asked her, and she told me in an email. I just got to commit it to memory because it's one of those names. Okay, you could say it this way, or you could say it this way, and I want to make sure I get it right. But she'll be joining. She's actually coloring it. She's going to start joining the Wednesday cruise when she can. Thanks, Tommy. It was nice. It was fun talking about this. Tommy says, "Nice talk, y'all." But yeah, so I'm really excited to be talking to Jackson Rennick tomorrow night in the Silverline 1-on-1. Not sure who's going to art for that yet. because I have neglected to reach out to any of my artist pals here and ask them if they can do it. So I will probably be sending some emails out right after we're done here. Next week, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about next week. Probably going to talk about, going to focus a good bit on the Kickstarter that I should remind you all launches on Tuesday. And that Kickstarter is for Friar Rush #1. That John inked and Becca colored, and also
Aaron drew.
And I drew it.
Yeah.
Well,
oh
I drew
yeah, and
Friar
Aaron
Rush.
drew. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm looking around the screen saying who did I miss? And Mike lettered it. Okay, man, the whole Friar Rush crew is here, really.
Yeah.
And then of course Bloodline, which was penciled by Rob Sochetto, inked by Terry Pallett, colored by Jeremy Kahn. So next week, guys, you should plan to talk about Friar Rush some as well. We'll be a couple of days into the Kickstarter, so we'll plan to talk about it. John, I know, has already started showing off the variant cover that we've got for Friar Rush, which I think ended up looking really, really gorgeous. So we're gonna have some cool stuff. I will say this for those who are listening about the Kickstarters, we've got so much original art with this one. We've got more original art for this upcoming Kickstarter than we've had for any Silverline Kickstarter to date. So I'm incredibly excited about that. If you are a fan of original art, don't wait too long, because I'm sure some of the sweeter pieces are going to go quickly. So be sure that launches Tuesday. So don't forget about our merch store. Don't forget to like and follow and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to go around and ask everyone where we can find you online. Becca, we'll start with you. Where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at Comic Art. It's with a K, 2 Ks _art. What is it? The Twitter thing. I don't go on it much, obviously. I don't remember my handle. And Facebook, Rebecca.
I'll be sure to put it down in the information.
Thank
for
you.
Rebecca. I got
should
you
really
back.
start using that.
I got you back.
Thank you.
John, what about you? Where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Well, you can find me on the Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. There's some variation of either John Martin Art, John Vampire Art. And also I have a Patreon page.
Cool. Is that new? I don't think I have that link, do I?
You should have that link, sir.
Okay. I don't remember. I may have it. I try to add them to I have a master list that I keep. And if you send it to me, I try to add it. I don't recall that one, but if you send it to me, hopefully
I'll double check and see if I did.
Okay.
If not, I'll send it.
Okay. Sounds good. Pete, once again, thank you for getting up at the wee early morning hours over across the pond there. Where can people find you online?
Instagram is best, but Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, it's all the same thing. It's Peter Clinton Art. You'll see everything snapshots of what I'm working on at the moment, and the odd commission and things like that.
Cool.
Art stuff.
Sounds good. Aaron, what about you? Where can folks find you online?
You can find me Instagram at ALH3810. That's my handle. Facebook at my name, Aaron Humphreys, or Humphreys Illustration is my business art page. And then my Godlings comic is on Webtoons, which I'm hoping to start. I haven't posted for a while. I'm hoping to start posting. I posted when the issues are done, so I am like 4 pages away from finishing this last issue, but I keep having other projects come in, so hopefully that would be posting really soon again. Picking that up.
And you said this issue would be which issue number?
Issue 8.
8. Okay.
8 of 12. Yeah.
Nice. Yep. So you're on the downhill slope for the for the rest of them. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And don't forget, those of you paying attention, Aaron has agreed to make a chunk of issues available as one of our stretch goals. So
yes,
we want to try to get there so you can all see what Aaron's been doing with Godlings. Mike, what about you? Where can folks find you online?
You can find me on Facebook and Twitter with Mike W. Belcher. You can find me and anything Man in the Mask related at amkcomics.com. And for the past week, I've been doing a little daily webcomic on Facebook and Instagram. Y'all check it out.
That's right. It's free, folks. You might as well go read it.
Yeah.
And Curtis, what about you?
Sure. You can find me on Facebook. It's Curtis Fujita, and you can also find me via Instagram for my martial arts school. Look up Tiger Crane 805, one word. Also, same on YouTube, Tiger Crane 805, and you can also find my school's page on Facebook, Tiger Crane Kung Fu.
Nice. And don't forget, everyone, I'll have all these links in the info here. And don't let Curtis's calm demeanor fool you. He is a kung fu master, and he will take you down. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Roland Man. You can find me on Twitter at Man Roland, and I'm pretty much every other social media. Although I'm really mostly active on Facebook. Silverline, don't forget the Silverline website, silverlinecomics.com. We have an email list where I'm trying to be better about giving some advance notice to our those who have subscribed to our email list to let you in on some special stuff, some secret stuff, early stuff, which is kind of why the email list even exists, right? So I'm going to try to do that for our upcoming Kickstarter. So if you're listening and saying, "Am I on the email list?" You should double check and make sure you're on there, because I'll send something out. So yeah, again, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, whatever else you do on any of the platforms. And last but not least, make mine Silverline.
Silverline.